From the Watergate Building in Washington, this is Hotline TV. Now, here are Hotline editors Chuck Todd and John Mercurio.
Hotline TV, I'm Chuck Todd.
And I'm John Mercurio. You thought election season was over, but it's only just begun. Later this week, House Democrats will vote to decide the new House Majority Leader. The battle, of course, is between current Democratic Whip Steny Hoyer and Pennsylvania Congressman Jack Murtha. Chuck Todd. Nancy Pelosi weighed in on the race this weekend, backing Jack Murtha. Is that going to be enough to save him?
First of all, I noticed that you and Murtha are obviously very close. You call him Jack.
I do.
Never understood. I'm going to go off on a rant here. Never understood the whole how Jack is a nickname for John, because I know John is such a complicated name.
And Chuck is a nickname for Charles.
Well,
okay,
that's fine. But John,
you guys can
four
fast
letters.
If you want to.
Jack,
go on for a
four
while.
letters. I've never understood the Jack John thing.
Charles,
but anyway,
Jack. Charles,
I'll stop.
Off camera, I call him Jackie.
Well, okay
right.
then. You've
There you
extended
go.
his name. His name becomes longer, not shorter. Anyway,
Steny, Jackie, what have you.
Steny.
We
don't even know what the hell Steny is for.
Right,
but anyway,
that's
that's a whole nother show. We'll go off on the name Steny. I think this was just Nancy Pelosi being loyal to an old friend who managed her races, got her in leadership. She never would have gotten leadership without the backing of an old lion at the time, like Jack Murtha. Mm-hmm. So I think it's a little payback. She felt like she owed him the letter. You know, she doesn't seem to be. I can't imagine she'd be making calls on this. That'd be a little much. I think she's playing Machiavelli here. I think this is a way to send a signal. Look, you know, my number two isn't someone that I placed there. This is what kind of independent leadership we have here in the Democratic Party.
Yeah, interesting. I think this is classic Nancy Pelosi. And if you go back over the past 5 or 6 years, she likes to get involved in intra-party disputes. She likes to endorse candidates over one another. There's several primaries that she's gotten involved in that nobody, even this was before she was the leader of the party, nobody really invited her, and yet she would come in. She would lose more often than she would win.
Rahm Emanuel. She endorsed his primary opponent.
Which is why it's really very interesting that she's been able to rise to speaker, given how many enemies she's made by creating these sort of inter-party disputes. But I think as we were just talking about earlier, I think this ultimately helps both Hoyer and Murtha and herself. It helps her because she's viewed as backing a relatively conservative Democrat, Jack Murtha, except on the issue of Iraq. It also helps Hoyer because, look, he can go to these blue dogs and say, you can vote for me, and you can tell your voters back home that you're voting against Nancy Pelosi's team.
What's interesting here is if you look at the bigger picture and the whole corruption and ethics angle that Democrats railed against the Republicans, right? Steny Hoyer has been Mr. K Street. In fact, he had to shut down his own version of the K Street project that he was working on. And Jack Murtha is no stranger to lobbyists, thanks to his brother and appropriations and the earmark. I mean, I think he's very friendly with the earmark. So neither one of these are exactly what you would want to hold up as the new standard of conduct when it comes to how they're going to conduct themselves via lobbying and legislation.
Which is why that's very interesting and it's very true, and that's why I think you have to look below the position of majority leader to really get to who's sort of the future of the Democratic Party.
Big winner,
and that's Rahm Emanuel.
I was just going to say, the big winner of this fight between Hoyer and Murtha, I think no matter what, is Rahm Emanuel. Because he's the only new generation guy. He's going to be the highest ranking member of leadership who never was in the majority pre-94.
Sure.
I mean, all these guys have been
Hoyer,
there, done
Clyburn.
that.
We're talking, of course, about Clyburn.
Clyburn is going to be the number 3. So I think you're basically looking at Rahm as now the de facto number 2 because he's the next speaker in waiting whenever something happens to Nancy Pelosi.
He's got a safe Democratic seat. He's in his early 40s. He's going to be around forever. He could definitely see himself rising in the future.
Well, that'll do it for today. Before we go, you got to pick Hoyer or Murtha.
Hoyer.
Yeah,
I'm safe.
Hoyer. Yeah, it's probably going to be Hoyer.
I go safe.
Tomorrow we'll tackle the GOP's leadership contest.
For Chuck Todd, I'm John Mercurio. We'll see you tomorrow on Hotline TV.